The scream wasn't human. It cut through the early dawn like a blade, a chilling, broken wail that didn't belong in the routine quiet of the bushveld. Olivia Morel dropped her mug of tea, porcelain shattering on the wooden floor. She froze, heart hammering. It wasn't the sound of a predator hunting. It was something else. Raw, desperate, almost pleading. Still barefoot, she opened the cabin door, letting the golden morning light flood in. And then she saw her. A mother leopard stood on the porch. Her chest heaved with exhaustion. Blood streaked her front legs. And in her jaws, limp as a discarded rag doll, hung a tiny cub, unmoving, not dead, but dying. The cub's head lolled unnaturally. Its breath, if it was breathing at all, was nearly invisible. Olivia didn't move. The leopard didn't growl, didn't hiss. Her wild amber eyes locked with Olivia's. It wasn't a threat. It was a request. A mother begging another mother. Slowly, shakily, the leopard stepped forward and laid her cub on the wooden porch, then backed away. Just 2 steps. That was all. She didn't run. She didn't attack. She sat and waited. The porch felt like sacred ground now. Olivia knelt, her breath shallow, her palms trembling as she reached for the tiny body. The cub was warm, but barely. She pressed 2 fingers to its chest. A heartbeat, faint, irregular. It was enough. She scooped the fragile body into her arms and whispered, "I've got you now, little one." Behind her, the door creaked open as she retreated into the cabin. The mother leopard followed, not inside, but to the threshold, staring silently, not blinking, not moving. Olivia didn't shut the door. She couldn't. Not on a mother's hope. Inside, she moved fast. The kitchen table became an emergency operating room. She laid the cub down, its tiny spotted belly rising and falling in ragged gas. The mother leopard's presence was a shadow just beyond the door, her breath audible, her body tense with fear and trust. Olivia fetched her emergency kit, antiseptic, syringes, small bandage gauze. Her hands moved from years of practice, but her heart had never pounded this hard. She had treated antelope with snared legs, patched wounded lions, even rescued poisoned vultures. But this was different. This one had been brought to her, by choice. She cleaned the shallow gash along the cub's front paw, administered a tiny dose of stimulant, and wrapped its leg carefully. Still no response. No sound. No protest. The kitchen was silent, except for the clock ticking and the faint rasp of the cub's breath. Then came a sound. A sigh. So soft, Olivia almost missed it. The cub twitched. She gasped. Its ears flinched. Then the faintest mewl. She dropped to her knees, tears springing to her eyes. "You're fighting," she whispered. "Good girl. Fight." She warmed a cloth, wiped the dried blood from its face, and kissed its forehead without thinking. Outside, the mother leopard took one silent step closer. And then she sat, not with panic, not with fury, with faith. It was the moment trust bloomed between the wild and the human, not tamed, not owned, just understood. Olivia stayed with the cub for hours, her hand never leaving its body. She barely noticed her tea had gone cold on the floor. She didn't care. She had become something more than a ranger. She had become a vessel of hope. The cub's breath had evened out, but it was still dangerously shallow. Olivia wrapped it in a clean towel and laid a warm compress near its side to keep its body temperature from dropping. The wounds weren't deep, but whatever had happened out there in the bush had drained it nearly to death. Outside the open door, the mother leopard didn't move. She sat with the silent patience of something ancient. Her golden eyes never left her cub, not even for a blink. Olivia glanced at her every few seconds, almost unable to believe what was unfolding. A wild leopard in her home, trusting her with her child. She whispered again, not to the cub this time, but to the mother. "I'll do everything I can." I promise. She didn't expect an answer. But somehow the air shifted, just enough to feel like the leopard had heard. Olivia reached for her notebook, instinct from years of habit. She jotted down quick observations. Approximately 4 weeks old. Female cub, puncture wound left paw. Hypothermia signs, mother watching, no aggression. First known direct contact of this kind. She paused, then added, "Trust is earned, not taken." By midday, the cub stirred again, this time with more strength. Its tiny legs twitched under the towel. It gave a small sneeze. Olivia's heart jumped. Carefully, she prepared a feeding syringe with warm formula and gently tapped the cub's nose with it. A minute passed, then the cub latched on. It was weak, sloppy drinking, but it was something. She nearly cried again. From the doorway, the mother leopard shifted her weight, moving just a step closer, her body low and quiet, every muscle ready, but not tensed in attack. Olivia didn't flinch. She simply looked up and whispered, "She's drinking. She's stronger." She didn't know why she kept speaking to the leopard, except that it felt right. It felt like talking to another mother. When the cub finished, Olivia cradled her against her chest, gently rocking her like a human baby. The cabin felt strangely full, not crowded but alive. Olivia wasn't alone. Not today. There were no guards, no backup, no other rangers. Just her, a cub, and a predator who'd crossed the invisible line between the wild and the human world to ask for help. Hours passed in quiet care. Olivia cleaned the wounds again, checked the heartbeat, stronger now, wiped the cub's fur, and brushed away dried mud. She made no sudden moves. She didn't play music. She didn't even speak on the radio. Every sense was trained on the living creature in her arms, and the one guarding the threshold. When the sun began to dip low on the horizon, painting the wooden floorboards gold, Olivia stood and carried the cub to the door. She didn't intend to hand her over. Not yet. The cub wasn't ready, but the mother needed to see. She stepped onto the porch. The mother leopard stood. Her tail twitched. Her ears flicked forward. Olivia knelt again, slowly, and unwrapped the towel enough to show the cub's face. The little spotted head lolled to the side, and for a moment Olivia feared she'd relapsed. But then the cub mewed, soft and scratchy, and its eyes fluttered halfway open. The mother stepped forward, one cautious, deliberate movement at a time. She sniffed the air, sniffed her cub, and then, without a sound, she licked the cub's cheek. Olivia froze, not in fear but in awe. Here she was, kneeling on a porch in the middle of the African wilderness, holding a wild cub while its mother gently licked its face, and neither of them wanted her gone. It was as if, for this brief moment, she was a part of something ancient, something sacred, something that had no name. She gently brought the cub back inside, placing her on a folded blanket near the warm stove. The mother didn't protest. She remained on the porch, lying down now, eyes watchful but calm. As night crept in, Olivia made a bed on the floor near the cub. She couldn't bring herself to sleep in the loft above, not while this small life still teetered on the edge. Every few minutes she'd check her breathing. She'd place a hand on her belly to feel it rise and fall. It was rhythmic now, stable. Outside, the leopard never left. Around midnight, the cub stirred and cried, a sound louder than anything since morning. Olivia smiled and fed her again, the tiny creature suckling stronger than before. She stroked her forehead, and the cub butted its head gently into her palm. Trust. Tiny, fragile, but real. She looked toward the door. The mother was sitting up now, her silhouette caught in the moonlight, watching, waiting, maybe wondering how much longer she'd have to stay away from the things she loved most. Olivia leaned her head against the wooden frame and whispered, "Just a little longer." The Bushveld dawn arrived slowly, its light creeping across the wooden floor in golden streaks. Olivia's back ached from sleeping on the hard boards beside the cub, but she didn't move. Not yet. Not until she was sure. The cub was nestled under a soft towel, her sides rising and falling with gentle rhythm. No more shallow, panicked gasps. Just breathe. Life. Olivia exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. She turned to the doorway, expecting the space to be empty. But the mother leopard was still there. Not lying down now. She was sitting upright, tail curled around her paws, her amber eyes wide and sharp. She had stayed the entire night, motionless in the cold, guarding a threshold she couldn't cross. Olivia stood slowly and opened the door fully. A gust of crisp morning air blew in, and with it, the scent of earth and dry grass. The mother sniffed at the air but didn't flinch. Olivia lifted the cub gently from the blanket, supporting her head and hindquarters. The little body squirmed now, just slightly, but it was enough to feel real strength returning. As she stepped onto the porch, the mother stood. Olivia knelt again and whispered, "She's going to be okay." The mother crept forward, no longer tentative. She sniffed her cub and gave a low, throaty chuff, a sound Olivia had never heard from a wild leopard before. It wasn't a growl, it wasn't a warning, it was something else. Affection. Olivia's throat tightened. The mother looked up at her, not away, not past her, but directly into her eyes. There was something in that look that had no translation. It was not a command, not gratitude. It was a shared weight, a mutual knowing. They were two mothers holding the same breath. Olivia stood and carried the cub into the garden. The morning light spilled across the dewy grass, and a light wind stirred the tall reeds along the edge of the compound. She laid a blanket in a warm patch near the wild basil plants and placed the cub in the center. The cub blinked, then mewed, louder now, demanding. It was time. The mother stepped from the porch onto the grass, slowly, deliberately. She walked over to her baby and lay beside her, curling her body protectively around the tiny form. The cub wriggled, found her warmth, and nestled into her side. Olivia watched from a few feet away, her hands limp at her sides, her heart full. She had saved lives before, dozens, maybe hundreds, but nothing like this. She walked back into the cabin and returned with a tray. Two bowls, one with chunks of meat, the other with water. She set it a few feet from the mother. The leopard didn't react, didn't need to. Olivia wasn't feeding a pet. She was honoring a bond. For the next hour, they sat in silence. Three lives, a strange family, stitched together by instinct and necessity. The cub suckled once, then crawled into a shallow sleep, her limbs twitching in a dream only wild things could understand. The mother leopard rested her head near the cub's, one paw slung gently over her tiny body. Olivia didn't dare move closer. She didn't have to. She belonged here. That was enough. Eventually, the cub woke again and began exploring the small patch of garden, still clumsy, still weak, but determined. She walked a few wobbly steps toward Olivia and collapsed at her feet. Olivia smiled and bent down, running her fingers gently over the cub's head. The cub looked up, blinked, and then pressed its face into her hand. It was as if she remembered. The mother rose but didn't interfere. She simply watched. Olivia looked up at her and said softly, "She's strong now. You did the right thing." No answer. No movement. Just the presence of something ancient and alive. A soul wrapped in fur. By late morning, the mother had eaten. The cub drank water from Olivia's hand. And for one brief sunlit moment, all three of them lay in the garden like old friends. The cub dozed in Olivia's lap. The mother stretched in the sun, tail twitching lazily. This wasn't science. This wasn't protocol. This was sacred. Olivia snapped a few pictures, not to show anyone, not to publish, just to remember. A memory no ranger's log could ever truly capture. As the wind picked up, rustling the dry trees beyond the garden, Olivia knew this moment wouldn't last forever. Wild things don't stay. They can't. But today, they had chosen her, and that was more than enough. By midday, the garden had become a sanctuary. Olivia sat barefoot in the grass, her back against the wooden steps of her cabin. The cub was curled against her thigh, resting after a small meal. The mother leopard lay nearby in the shade, eyes half-lidded, but never truly asleep. One ear flicked with every breeze. She wasn't resting. She was waiting. Olivia knew it too, waiting for the time to go. But still, they stayed. She stroked the cub's back slowly. The soft, spotted fur was now clean, the tiny body warm and plump with life. The first time the cub had purred, it had been barely audible. Now it vibrated gently against Olivia's hand. A soft sound, a miracle. She whispered, "You don't know what you did to me, little one." Olivia's days were usually filled with solitude. Radio check-ins, long hikes through the bush, silent observation posts, handwritten notes. She didn't mind the loneliness. She had chosen it. But now in the company of this strange pair, it felt like something inside her had cracked open. Not broken, just softened. The cub rolled onto her back, paws twitching at the sky. Olivia laughed quietly. The mother leopard didn't move. But then, unexpectedly, she stood. She walked toward her baby, not Olivia, but brushed close, so close her shoulder fur grazed Olivia's arm. For a heartbeat, Olivia froze. Then she turned her face gently toward the leopard and whispered, "You're safe." The mother leaned down, nuzzled the cub, then sat. Her eyes lifted to Olivia's once again. Less cautious now, less questioning. It wasn't affection. It wasn't submission. It was permission. Olivia had been accepted, not as a ranger, not even as a helper, but as something closer. Family. That afternoon, the air thickened with heat. The cicadas droned in the brush. Olivia laid a fresh towel in the shade and moved the cub into it. She brought out 2 bowls again, one with meat, one with water. The mother leopard drank carefully. The cub copied her, though most of the water ended up on the grass. Afterward, Olivia retrieved a light blanket and placed it near them, watching as the cub stretched out sleepily beside her mother. The mother closed her eyes for the first time since arriving, and Olivia finally exhaled. She didn't realize how heavy the morning had been. She sat in the garden beside them for hours, her journal forgotten in the cabin. She didn't need to write today. Everything worth remembering was happening in real time. A sudden rustle from the trees made her head snap up. Not danger, just motion. A kudu passed silently through the tree line, eyes alert. It paused at the edge of the clearing, locking eyes with Olivia for a brief moment, then turned and melted into the bush. Peace returned. The cub stirred again, more energetic now. She climbed clumsily onto Olivia's foot, bit at her laces, then tried to climb up her leg. Olivia laughed and scooped her gently into her lap. The cub purred again and rubbed her tiny face into Olivia's hand. "I think you're going to be trouble," Olivia whispered with a grin. The mother leopard opened one eye, watched, then slowly, she stood. Olivia felt the shift immediately. The air changed. The moment had ended. It was time. The mother gently picked up her cub by the scruff of the neck. The cub dangled, wriggled, gave a little squeak. Olivia stood slowly, watching, heart tight in her chest. She had known this day would come. She had saved this life not to keep it, but to let it go. The mother turned toward the edge of the compound, the cub held firmly in her jaws. She walked a few steps, then paused, turned her head, looked back at Olivia. That single moment, mother to mother, soul to soul, carried every emotion Olivia couldn't put into words. Respect, trust, farewell. Then she was gone, into the brush, into the wild. And Olivia, alone again in her garden, finally allowed the tears to fall. Not of sorrow, but of something deeper, something close to grace. A week passed, and the cabin felt emptier than ever. Olivia rose each morning as she always did, early before the sun burned through the morning mist. But the rhythm of her days had changed. She still made tea. She still did her patrols. She still kept her records. But something was missing. The silence around her wasn't peaceful anymore. It was too clean, too hollow, like a story that ended mid-sentence. Each morning she found herself glancing toward the tree line, hoping, though she didn't admit it out loud. She checked for tracks near the edge of the garden. None. She scanned the brush for movement. Nothing. The wild had taken back what was its own, as it should. But Olivia's heart hadn't caught up. The memory of the cub nestled in her lap, the soft purr, the weight of trust in the leopard's golden eyes. It stayed with her, more vivid than dreams. She didn't tell anyone, not her supervisor, not the wildlife unit, not the vet who occasionally flew in for emergency surgeries. She knew what they'd say. They'd call it a story, a moment of weakness, a breach of protocol, but they hadn't felt that heartbeat. They hadn't heard that cry, and they hadn't seen a wild leopard walk through a door. She kept it for herself, until one early morning, 7 days after the visit, everything changed. The reserve roads were bone dry. Dust kicked up beneath her tires as she drove the patrol jeep along the outer loop, binoculars slung around her neck. Birds scattered from the treetops as she passed. In the distance, a kudu herd grazed along a shallow stream. She was about to radio in her position when a shadow stepped onto the road. She slammed the brakes. The dust cloud rose and settled, and there she was. The mother leopard, no doubt. Same sleek frame, same sharp gaze, same calm. But she wasn't alone. Behind her stepped a smaller shape, slightly larger than before, stronger, but still unmistakable. The cub, alive, walking, bold. And they weren't running. They stood in the center of the road watching her, just watching. Olivia cut the engine and slowly opened the Jeep door. The silence fell thick, even the birds hushed. She stepped down into the golden morning light, hands low and open. No camera, no journal, just her. She whispered, barely loud enough to hear herself. "You came back." The mother leopard held her gaze for a long time, then took a slow step forward, not hostile, not fearful. The cub padded ahead, confident now, steady on her legs. She walked straight to Olivia's feet and looked up with curious eyes. Recognition. Olivia knelt, heart pounding, and extended a hand. The cub sniffed her fingertips, then without hesitation, rubbed her head against Olivia's hand, just like she had in the kitchen that morning a lifetime ago. The mother moved closer. No growl, no warning, just presence. A moment passed in stillness. Then, unexpectedly, the mother bowed her head. Not fully, not dramatically, just enough. Enough to say, "I remember, I trust, I return." Olivia swallowed the lump in her throat. "I didn't know if I'd ever see you again," she whispered. The cub purred softly and sat at her feet, tail twitching, ears alert. Olivia slowly reached forward and brushed her fingers along the soft fur behind her ears. And for that one perfect moment, it was as if the past week had never happened. They were together again, wild and human, cub and keeper. No fear, no fences, no reason, except connection. Then just as quickly, it passed. The mother leopard turned her head toward the tall grass. The cub stood. Together they began to move. Before disappearing into the wild, the cub paused. She looked back, just once, then vanished into the gold. And Olivia, standing barefoot in the road, finally understood. Some stories don't end. They echo. After that second visit, everything was different. Not louder, not busier, just different. Olivia returned to her cabin with a heart so full it hurt. She stood at the threshold where the mother leopard had once laid her cub, and for the first time in years she hesitated to go inside. It felt like stepping away from something sacred. But life demanded routine, even when your world had shifted. She entered, made tea, and sat by the window with her journal. The cup warmed her hands, but it couldn't quiet the storm inside her. She didn't write down facts that morning. Instead, she wrote feelings. She came back, not just the cub, her mother too. They knew me. The cub remembered. I know what I saw, and no one else needs to believe it. This was ours. Outside, the wind rustled the tall grasses near the tree line. She stared out across the garden where the cub had once stumbled through wild basil and sunlight. The grass had flattened slightly, still bearing the soft impression of paws. For days, Olivia moved like someone half dreaming. She patrolled the reserve, checked camera traps, monitored lion pride movement near the northern ridge. Her work was steady, focused, but her thoughts always drifted back to those amber eyes and that spotted little body curled against her boots. She didn't see them again. Not immediately, but she felt them. Signs, not sightings. Footprints near the edge of the compound. A claw mark on a low tree trunk. The faint scent of musk on the wind. All signs said, "We're close." And then, one evening just before sunset, she found something else. She had walked down to the river bend, as she did every Thursday, to record hippo behavior. The sky was orange and red, streaked with pale cloud. Birds chirped low in the brush. She sat on a rock near the bank, scribbling notes when she felt it. A presence, not danger, a watching. She turned slowly, and at the edge of the tree line, half shrouded in shadow, stood the cub. Not a baby anymore, not fully grown either, but stronger, taller, and utterly fearless. No mother in sight, just her. The cub stared, then without a sound, stepped forward, paws silent in the grass. Olivia stood, heart hammering. The cub walked within a few feet of her, then stopped and sat, like she had done it 1,000 times before. Olivia knelt. She didn't reach out, not yet. Instead, she waited. The cub blinked slowly, then rubbed her face, once, against Olivia's knee. No fear, no flinch, just truth. Olivia whispered, "So, this is who you are now." The cub didn't stay long. After a minute, she turned and trotted back into the bush. Graceful, sleek, sure of herself. Olivia didn't follow. She didn't need to. Somewhere deep inside, she knew this wasn't the last time. That night, she returned home and found something unexpected near her front door. A single guinea fowl feather, tucked between the porch boards. A gift? A sign? A coincidence? She didn't care. She picked it up, placed it gently in her journal, and wrote only one line. She walks her path now. But we still walk together. The days moved on, folding into the rhythms of the bush like pages in an old book. Dry seasons settled over the sobby sands, dusting the trees in pale gold, and painting the grasses brittle and sunburnt. But Olivia had changed. Each patrol felt different now, not just a job, but a quiet pilgrimage. Every bend in the trail, every paw print in the mud, every whisper in the grass felt like it might be a sign from them. The leopards. Her leopards. Sometimes she found their tracks overlapping hers. Sometimes she found nothing. But still, she hoped. She stopped mentioning them on the radio. The visits, the moments, even the feather. This was not a story for her colleagues. It wasn't for the reports or the conservation board. It belonged to something older, something sacred. Then one morning, almost a month since the cub's second visit, Olivia woke early, just before sunrise. The cabin was still, the sky outside a soft gray blue. She brewed tea without thinking, her body moving before her mind caught up. Then she felt it, that familiar sense of presence, watching. She stepped outside barefoot, mug still in hand, and there they were. And at the far edge of the garden, just before the bush was swallowed the land, the mother leopard and the cub, now grown into a sleek, adolescent shadow of her mother. They weren't close. They weren't trying to be. They just were. The cub looked stronger now, her coat brighter, her stride longer, no trace of the weakness that had once curled her unconscious on Olivia's floor. She stood tall, tail twitching in curiosity, her mother beside her, calm, powerful, untamed. Olivia didn't move, didn't speak. It wasn't that kind of moment. This was a goodbye, not a sad one, not full of tears or longing, just real, true to who they all were. The cub met her eyes one last time, tilting her head like she had when she was small. Then she turned and padded away into the brush. Her mother followed, pausing only once to glance back, not as a warning or as thanks, just acknowledgement. Then the wild swallowed them both. Olivia stood alone again, but she didn't feel empty. She felt full of memory, of meaning, of something wordless and eternal. That afternoon, she returned to her notebook and wrote one final entry on the back page, beneath the feather still taped there. "You came to me broken. You left whole. And now you belong to the wild again. But if you ever come back, my door will still be open." The next day, she resumed patrol like always. The same trail, the same trees, the same rising sun behind her. Only now every step was accompanied by something she couldn't name, a closeness, a presence, as if two shadows still walked beside her, one large and protective, the other small and curious, brushing its soft face against her hand. Not gone, just elsewhere. And so Olivia Morel, the sole keeper of Sabi Sands, continued her quiet watch. She didn't need recognition. She didn't need stories told, because some love is meant to be wild, and the greatest gifts the wild ever gives are the ones it trusts you to let go. There they were,